Okay, with that being kind of sort of said, I'll call the April 28th meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. The minutes aren't ready.
Not ready.
Were you sleeping?
It was a long meeting.
Yeah, it was a long meeting. General, should have Taylor do it. Better than wearing a Kevlar jacket. All right, with that being said, general business, 242-1716, request for an extension, 146 Main Street.
Alrighty, so this is a request for a final extension to this order of conditions. The commission will recall issuing an order in August of 2017 governing removal of the existing pump house and failed sewer pump station and replacement with a below-grade 1,000-gallon pump chamber duplex pump with an exterior control panel and alarm system mounted on the existing building. The applicant is working with finalizing agreements with the landowners. That's still ongoing, so they need more time relative to that. So they are asking for an additional but final one-year extension.
Okay, thank
So,
you. Sean, any questions?
No questions?
Yeah, Joe?
No questions.
Al?
No questions.
Tony?
No questions.
Motion?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Warrant article discussion and recommendation Stevens Estate open space transfer.
alrighty. So the town is negotiating with Weber Restaurant Group, I think it's called, to manage the Stevens Estate for functions. Part of the negotiation is what the town wants to do is set aside 137 acres of the Stevens Estate and place it under the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. And they have asked for the commission to consider and vote whether it would consider a favorable action at town meeting on this proposal.
Chuck?
Is there any reason why we wouldn't want to take care and custody of it?
I don't see any reason.
And you think it would be a good thing?
I think it would. The town is also negotiating possible agreements for some level of trail maintenance on the company's responsibility end. So they're open to that. They're talking about that. I provided the town manager with some recommendations on some things we should think about to include into that agreement. So I think overall it's probably a good deal.
Okay, no questions?
Yep.
Joe?
This is just open space, not a CR, correct?
Correct.
So it's only local action, nothing requiring
Exactly.
state
Yep.
action? Do we have, there's been various articles proposed for similar reasons in the past, none of which I remember what actually came of them, if they just went away because,
I can answer for you.
go ahead, yeah.
I was telling Amy earlier, in 1997, an almost identical article, when the Stevens Estate organization was originally created to operate and run the estate, there was a warrant article that was proposed that did exactly what you see here. It took 125 or 130 acres, or however many it was at the time, and proposed to then put that into the care and custody of the Conservation Commission, and the trustees of the estate would run the rest of it, operate the rest of it, which is what ended up happening for years. But the transfer of real property to the commission failed at town meeting by 10 votes in 1997.
Or so that's what I was thinking, so it never did pass.
It never passed, but it was awfully close. It was bitterly argued. And the arguments, when you look back at them now, were just silly. There was no real substance to the arguments. It was just a lot of emotions. People were upset that the Stevens estate was being shifted, and, change comes hard. And so sadly, the transfer of the land back then failed, so hopefully this time it doesn't fail. Because I think it's perfect we can do a good job with it. We can link the trail system up, we can do some good things.
So remember the action being very similar, that is what's being requested now, is just that we vote to support it and to accept the property, but should have a transfer.
Yep.
But what is gonna make that selling proposition any different this time? What makes us get those 10 votes that we needed, that we missed?
Well, it's a long time ago, 1997, it's a long time ago. I bet you less than 10% of the voters back then are still here.
Who's sponsoring the article? Selectmen?
I think it's a BOS article, I'm not sure.
I'm looking at the article, it doesn't say who it's sponsored by. Do you know, Amy?
I'm sorry.
Is this the Board of Selectmen's article, or is this our article?
This is, no, Board of Selectmen's.
Board of Selectmen's
Yeah,
article?
yeah, yeah.
All right, so they're the ones who have to make the presentation, make the pitch, just with a strong vote by us.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, and the difference this time is, there's a business agreement being proposed for the smaller portion, the buildings and the estate itself proper, and then the larger piece of real property wants to come to conservation to remain as open space. The last time this was before the town, the buildings were under the care and custody of the trustees, so it was a somewhat different operation. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I hope we get those votes this time.
Okay, and the TEC plan is the legal instrument for the recording? That's what's gonna be before town meeting, that defines the areas?
Here's,
Okay, I'm all set.
I'm all set.
Yeah, I have no questions.
Okay, motion.
So what does the motion have to be, Mr.
We
Chairman?
have to give a favorable recommendation as a commission for the warrant.
So we want to, I'll move it if you don't mind. I'll move that we recommend favorable action on this warrant article to transfer 137 acres of the Stevens estate to the care and custody of the Conservation Commission.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Excellent. Next one is COCs, 242-1776, 805 Forest Street. Request to continue, request to withdraw.
Yes. The request to withdraw, they're intending to move the fence where it should be, but the fence company is months out, so they just figured they'd reapply when they get the fence company to come back and put
So
it.
that order, has that expired?
No, it's still open,
So it mean reapply?
for the certificate of compliance.
Oh, for the certificate of
Yeah, yeah.
Because relocating the fence is part of the, basically, it's an action to make the order conditions hold.
Compliant.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll set.
Sean?
I'm good.
Okay. The only thing I mentioned to Amy, at some point, they'll follow up, because somebody will just say, well, heck with it. And think that we're gonna forget about it.
Yep.
So at some point, Amy and Taylor will give it a
When
reasonable
does,
amount of time.
Amy, do you know when the order expires?
There's some money.
Oh, yeah, we have bond.
Yes, it's
We have bond.
Yeah.
I'll come get it.
And if
Yeah,
not, we'll just issue an enforcement order.
We issued it about a year ago at the most, so it's got a couple years to go. So it's, yeah.
So do we have to even move on a request to withdraw?
They filed a motion, they filed a request for COC, right?
Yep.
And they want to withdraw it?
Yeah.
I guess we could move to accept the withdrawal.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1739, partial COC request for the Ray Street subdivision.
So, this order issued in December of 2018 governs the construction of a cul-de-sac subdivision roadway with utility stormwater management facilities to service 7 new single-family houses. The request comes to release lots 1 and 2 from the order. These lots were able to be developed with houses and associated appurtenances without encroaching into the commission's jurisdiction, the 200-foot riverfront area and the 100-foot buffer zone. So it's these last 2 lots here. So the lots have slivers of jurisdiction, but work was maintained outside of jurisdiction. Both lots are fully stabilized and work remained with an established erosion control line that was established at the pre-construction meeting at the beginning of the project, which I was not part of, but the order required that the existing detention basin that was servicing North Cross be cleaned and maintained. The project engineer and the builder report that prior to construction, that basin was maintained, growing vegetation was removed. I think there was some tree saplings growing in there. So it looks much better, and they do keep an eye on it and remove trash weekly. So I know that was something that the chairman wanted me to check on. So I see no reason not to release these 2 lots under partial certificates from the order.
Thank you. John?
I see we're still holding $25,000 bond, so I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Joe?
Amy, there was a request a couple months ago regarding swimming pools. People wanted to install swimming pools. Was it on these lots?
This lot and this lot.
Which 2, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry,
Three-
385 and 399. And they were able to stay out of the buffer, and the project engineer confirmed that the pool and associated patios did not negatively impact the drainage system. That was a condition of that order.
So
For the
the lot
subdivision?
there is, so the address, that 385, that's lot 2. It's one of the 2 we're
Yes.
talking about.
Yeah,
So
This
the
is 1,
swimming pool
2.
construction activity is outside of jurisdiction.
yes,
The question at the time was the stormwater adequate to support it, since it was all looked at in the aggregate?
exactly.
Okay, so even though we're issuing compliance, the pool construction activity is still out of the jurisdiction.
Yeah,
I'm all set.
yeah.
At first, I wasn't in favor of anything until making sure that detention pond was clean, because it's somebody else's, it's not even theirs. But part of the stormwater management plan was that was gonna be clean and maintained, because they were putting water in there. So that's why I sent Amy and Taylor back out there to make sure that it was done before we issue anything. And I would strongly recommend it on the rest of the house lots, when they do apply for a partial COC, to make sure that the pond is still functioning as designed, because that's a major part of the stormwater management plan. And as you can see from the picture, they have done a good job. So I don't have an issue with what they're asking for. And we have $25,000. Al?
All set.
Tony?
No question.
Motion.
I move that we grant the partial COC request for 242-1739 Reyes Street subdivision, lots 1 and 2.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one, IDA, 415 Boxer Street, request to continue till 5/26/21.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 97 Commerce Way, Verizon.
All right, let me pull up the stuff. Okay. So this RDA comes from Verizon asking for approval for the installation of new telecommunication utility inside a trench, 2x4 trench, along the right-of-way of Commerce Way. connecting from an existing utility pole to the building. So since this is a new utility, it didn't qualify for the exemption. The piping will be installed at the edge of the roadway on the red line. The black in the plan is the erosion controls. Okay, so a majority of the trenching is within the 100-foot buffer zone. One section over on this end is within the 25, but based on aerial GIS, there is no option to stay out of the 25, even if you were inside the paved right-of-way. This wetland doesn't show it, but based on aerial GIS, it comes really close to the roadway, so you're going to be in the 25 no matter what you do. But I think the route that they chose keeps it the furthest away from the wetlands.
Sean?
So, you explain the project is it's a 2-foot by 4-foot area trench?
Yep. To install 1.25 inch diameter PVC piping,
For how long?
590 feet.
And when it gets within 25 feet of the wetlands, is there anything between the trench and the wetland?
They're proposing 12-inch malt socks.
Yep, but there,
That's so
otherwise,
cool.
there's nothing there now. It's not like it's on the other side of a road or other side of a path
No,
or anything like
it
that.
would be on the shoulder, on the wetland side of the shoulder.
Yep.
the shoulder.
And what's the purpose of this?
So they want to improve telecommunications to the Lawrence Jet Center building.
So it's really just going to help the Lawrence Jet Center building? And are there any feasible alternatives? And if so, is that even a requirement that this utility has to deal with?
Well, I think based on site conditions, there's just some squeeze points on the upper right where that elbow is, or next to this larger wetland system, which actually comes much closer to the roadway than this shows.
And this is in front of us for an RDA, and
Yeah.
so we don't have any distances on a plan or anything?
No, but I measured, on this side, the wetland's about 17 feet.
Yeah.
And on this side, the wetland comes up here, and that's about 10 feet.
Can you give a waiver on an RDA? We do that? I know we don't do it on small projects. I don't know if we do it on RDAs or not. But either way, well, I'd like to find that out. But otherwise, I don't have any other questions.
I think Amy made an RDA because there's really no place.
Yep.
It's wetlands on both sides. And there really
Yeah,
wasn't much you
and-
could do with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what supports a alternatives analysis on a waiver request.
Yeah.
And but I don't see that it's not an RDA, but Sean asked a good question, because it does imply, not imply, but it requires a waiver for us to even consider it.
I mean, this is no different than a homeowner coming in front of us, right? This isn't, there's no exemptions.
Does this come under a utility exemption?
No,
I was gonna
it's
ask.
new,
No,
it's
it's
new and
new.
it's not in the roadway,
I was
right?
gonna say, if it's an existing utility that they're upgrading, they might have something, but other than that.
But it's not, it's new.
It's new.
I actually read, that's exactly my
That's
question.
the first thing I asked. I
But
said,
It's not exempt.
It says in the narrative, the purpose of the project is to improve communications to the Lawrence Jet Center building. How do they get their communications now?
Actually, I think the project engineer's on the phone, on the call with us. Joe, if you want to.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Amy.
Great.
My name is Joe Callahan. I work for ES&M, and yeah, I'm representing Verizon New England on this project. Currently, I believe there's old lines in that roadway, but I'm going to have to, check on that to be certain. But this would be a new installation of a 1.25 inch PVC to run telecommunications cable to for the Lawrence Jet Center. It will be on the edge of the roadway. I do have pictures to share if you wanted to take a look at it, to see, example where it is. And it's outside the wetlands, of course, but Amy is correct. Especially on the north side, the wetland area is very close, and right at the turn as well.
How do they get their communications now, sir? How are their communications completed at this time without this?
I don't have the full answer to that. I'm sorry.
So you don't know if are there any type of utility poles there where it might be coming in overhead?
There isn't. There seems to be a pole that stops where they want to, reinstall the new line underground to the jet center.
Gotcha.
So I'm not sure where they get the current their communications now. If there's another area or not, I'd certainly check on that.
Okay, thank you.
And Amy, on this map, I see you got, this, what's the brown line depicting?
That's the road.
That's the road?
Yeah, that's the road.
Yep,
The red is the new
red.
That's the trench.
trench.
That's the new trench, okay.
And then the black is the erosion controls.
Mm,
Yep.
You've been out there, correct?
Yeah, yep,
Would
because
you say
that's
that-
at the end, yep.
That location that they're putting it in is in like a previously disturbed area? I mean, it's not all,
It's grassy shoulder.
yeah, so it's not vegetated with
Right.
with
Oh, yeah,
plants or
it's-
anything
Yeah,
like?
it's not like vegetation right up, there's a shoulder that they maintain on either side of that road, for sure. Yep.
I'm sorry, I really can't hear you because you're breaking up on my end.
Oh, sorry, Joe.
That's
So
okay.
they were just asking, can you hear me?
Sort of, kind of garbled, but
I don't know what's going on. So they just wanted to know what the conditions on the roadway shoulders were, and I just, having been out there, they're mowed and maintained. It's not like it's wild vegetation right up to the edge of the pavement, so.
no, the edge of it is maintained.
Yep.
I would say probably about 3 feet,
Yep, at least, yep.
yeah. I took some pictures of that. I don't know if you have the ability to share it on your screen or not. I could try to put them up for you.
Let me see, let me get to the Google call and see. I don't know if you can share your screen from here.
Did you see this picture at all?
Nope. No.
Okay.
Actually, the presenting button, is that it?
Stop presenting? I don't know. I'm afraid to.
Yeah, no, I think that'll shut off.
Yeah, that'll shut off
Yeah.
you, so then,
I think if you click on the dots on him, you might be able to make him
So,
able
let me
to
just-
share his screen.
If I could just ask another question, Amy. So what we're talking about is an inch and a quarter diameter PVC pipe in the roadway,
yeah, shoulder.
Off the shoulder.
off the shoulder?
Yeah, so instead of digging the pavement up, which,
Just on the edge, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I can understand the logic there.
Yeah,
Yeah, me too. I mean, again, I asked before if there was a roadway or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's kind of what I was inquiring about.
but I guess I'm not that offended by the project. It's only an inch and a quarter pipe,
Yeah, and it's a temporary disturbance.
Yeah, so it's-
and it's a temporary disturbance. I think I'm okay with
Looking
it.
at the picture too, the road is in great shape. The edge of the road is kind of, it has cracks in it, let me say that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple, by the way. The information that we have says it's in the singular, a 1.25 inch diameter pipe, but you're probably running a bank of conduit, correct? So for whatever you need now, plus a spare, so you don't ever have to dig up the roadway again to add more capacity?
My understanding is just 590 feet of the 1 1/4 inch, so.
Just
Usually-
one individual
Yeah.
conduit? So
one.
in
individual
situations like
conduit.
this, if there's ever a need to pull additional cables through, most utilities will really run a bank of conduits in to prevent the
You
future
are correct.
activity. So
My
that's,
experience is, in looking at the pictures, there are no poles except for the pole that's near the, where the, I guess you call that the north side, where it starts to, and then runs up to the jet center. I'm not sure how they get the communications right now. I'd have to check on that.
so from my perspective, I look at the vulnerability and we're really wrestling with what we would otherwise need a formal filing and a waiver to address. So to remove the future vulnerability in the area of jurisdiction, which is that area where you've got the double row of silt fence, I'm going to expect as a condition that there be a spare conduit laid parallel to the one that's going to be used. That way, should a need in the future arise, we're not coming back and debating the same issue again. That you simply attach to that conduit and move on outside of jurisdiction. So in that first stretch, I'm going to ask that a second conduit be put in as a spare. I was also trying to look at it pragmatically from the perspective that if this were an underground existing utility and it were in the roadway, that it would be in fact exempt, even as an upgrade in replacing an existing utility, all within payment. But realistically, what are we actually gaining by that exemption, other than getting a few extra feet of separation to the resource area, and at the same time, getting into a much larger scope of work, which includes tearing up pavement and restoring pavement. So I think from an alternatives perspective, the shoulder is the better alternative for sure. But I think if you can satisfy my concern for future disturbance by putting the second conduit in, I'd have no problem considering this as an RDA. And I'm all set.
Are you agreeable to that?
Joe, did you hear that?
I'm sorry?
So Joe Lynch was saying that he would insist on a second conduit being.
What? Yes, I did hear that,
Okay,
yeah.
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 So he's in favor?
I'm sure we'd be amenable to that.
If they're in the conduit business.
And I believe that could be put into, my experience, could be put into the 2-foot by 4-foot trench.
Okay. All right, any more questions?
I have none.
Motion?
So I move that we grant the negative determination on discussion, because we may have more on whether it's an RDA or not, but I move that we grant the negative determination. Are you giving us a?
-3.
-3. In addition to the recommendations listed by Amy, to also require that a spare conduit be installed from the beginning of the project location up to and beyond the limit of the northerly erosion control as a spare.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Next one is, it's no NOIs. We have 242, 1800, 158 Forest Street. Request to continue to 5/1.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Next one is 242, 1808 Beechwood Way.
So the commission, the last meeting discussed some minor plan revisions that revolved around snow stockpiling areas and location for dewatering. So I have the revised plan up here now, and I'm gonna have to zoom in because it's really washed out, but let me get, come on. All right, there we go. All right. So we talked about having no snow stockpiled at the end of this drive and allowing for it against the building and on this side of the road. let's get over here. And then at the end of this one, and then having appropriate signage for allowable areas and prohibited areas. So that was one of the main things we were waiting for revision. And then, let me see, sorry. All right, let me get to another plan here. No. Site detail plan revisions, I think this is it. And then an area for dewatering. Yeah, this might take me a bit to find it. So I think, I'm not sure if anyone's on the call with us. I didn't think it was critical. I think this is it.
Snow storage again.
Sure. Come on. I gotta zoom in because it's hard to see. Come on.
Okay, the bottom part where it says D, oh, no, excuse me, where it says 30
the
feet,
drain.
where it says 30 feet, Joe and I were in agreement that that part on the right side, my right, yeah, that right at the end, we're gonna put either no storage or, no, to the right.
This end. This end?
No, way over on the right. Right, okay. See where it says 30 feet?
Yeah.
Down right there.
Yep.
At the end of that parking lot, we were saying, don't put any snow. Right, Joe? Wasn't that the spot?
I think we were okay with here.
Because I think,
Well, here's the
it's hard to
buffer.
tell because the
Well,
wetland,
what we were saying is, if you were logically following the lot, the lion's share is gonna come down the end, and that's the furthest, right where your hand is, the cursor is, that's the furthest from the wetland area, and that is allowed to put it there. We move a little more to the left, Amy, to the left of the 30. Still there, you're some considerable distance away from the
The wetland.
wetland.
'Cause that's
You
the
can put
buffer.
some snow there as well, and against the building you can. That curved line D, see the curved line that's right below the D in that same general
This-
area? Right there.
that's
Is
the
that the
buffer.
setback or is that the
That's the
resource?
buffer. That's the edge of buffer zone.
That's the 100-foot. So, other than that tiny little cross-hatching in the buffer, they could snow there.
oh, they did eliminate, that was the section that we. that
Yeah, they
originally
had-
pushed
They had it
away
all,
snow.
they had it all inside the buffer,
Okay.
and they've
I got 'em-
eliminated it
I
now.
got them backward, okay.
Short of that tiny little crosshatch that's down there.
The other-
Yeah, I
the other-
know.
That's
the
just
other-
a drafting thing, but
Yeah, yeah.
The other question I have, you said the dewatering materials are not going to have the dewatering already set up?
No, they will.
They will?
They
okay.
will. They,
Is the-
yeah, it was calling out a location on the plan
Yeah, because
for it.
I'm not a big fan of having a dewatering material there and not a dewatering,
Yeah.
so let's go get it.
No, it will be on site.
Okay,
That
all
will be conditioned.
right, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Sean, any questions? Joe?
no more questions.
Tony? Motion?
So recommend closing the hearing. I drafted a decision for you guys to look at tonight.
So moved, close and issue in 21.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. I'm gonna hold off on the North Ramp, because I'm gonna put it with the 1210, so you just get Jagger one shot.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one's gonna be, this is gonna be a quick one also. 242, 1810, the Osgood Dam. What we did was we agreed that we were gonna have a peer review. There's a few contractors that Amy suggested. And I'm sure Tony or or Joe have dealt with some of these people. There was a request by the applicant to do some tree cutting in the buffer now. And I'm personally, I don't think anything should be done till we get some recommendations from the peer review. So I'm open to questions and or discussion. And
So I drafted up a scope for you guys to consider, and you guys can amend it or edit it as you see fit.
Amy, did you give one of these to the applicant?
I gave him the scope.
Okay, so he knows, he knows, we're reading, we're all reading the same material.
Yes.
Okay. So my recommendation is to put it out for a third party and go from there, because unfortunately, I don't know nothing about dams. I know Joe does and maybe Tony does, but I don't think you do. You know, you are familiar with dams?
Not those kind.
All right. So,
So Amy, the three firms that John JT mentioned, I actually know and have worked with all of those firms, and I know each of those three engineers who were listed. And I know their competence in working with dam issues, so that's exactly their area of expertise. And again, the scope is a review. We're not asking them to go in and reinvent the wheel, so to speak. That they're literally just reviewing what's proposed. And what is proposed, even though the original filing was broad,
Right.
multi-phase, multi-year,
Right.
we're really looking only at that
Phase
preliminary phase.
Zero.
phase
Right.
zero.
That preliminary phase, that's all that's before us.
Yes.
So I want to make sure the scope is reviewed at that level.
Yes.
Because future phases are likely to alter, and we want the review to take that into account later on,
Yep,
okay?
yep.
What you've listed here is pretty good.
Reasonable.
It is. Did you get the link I sent you from?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, Dam Safety
Yes.
Officer, you know, the
Yeah.
things that you should look for?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm all set.
Sean, do you have any questions? I don't have any questions, because I'm in the dark about this until I get some literature on it.
And I feel comfortable with your position that they shouldn't do any cutting there until we get this straightened.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with the scope of work that's being put out, and I agree with you that nothing should happen until that scope has been reviewed.
So,
I tend to agree. I mean, I think I've done a couple of dams that we've received notice from Office of Dam Safety that their approach seems sound, but I think we'd like to see how bad, have them delve into the reports and make sure everything makes sense and comply with the bylaw, so I have no problem with it.
So should the scope just include review the notice of intent and pertinent documents that were submitted with it?
Yes,
Yeah.
Office of Dam Safety will have somewhat of a record. Now, this being
Yep.
ill-maintained, if not maintained at all, they may have no record on it other than safety evaluation rating. But, we'd like them to review the Office of Dam Safety documents and the engineer's documents.
Okay.
And I agree with Joe when you said about them to just look at phase zero, but I think they should look at the other phases too, to make sure that's supposed to be how, or maybe two should be one, or one should be three, or, not design the project.
I don't want it to evolve into, because I was very, very specific because they were in asking for what seemed to be a multi-phase, multi-year permit.
Right.
Order conditions, which I'm not inclined to
No.
consider. So I think it may be efficient, and they may be willing to allow it, but I think it broadens the review of the scope. But yeah, if they're willing to go along for it, looking at a cursory review of all future sequences and phases, and making sure that they're being proposed in the right order, that's pretty basic, and that's probably fair game.
Right. Like I said, this project is money generated, which most projects are, but at least give us some insight, a little bit,
Sure.
if they want to do that.
But I guess about restating it, so obviously, I just don't want a deep dive review of future phases. I really want just a logical review that it's being done in the right order,
Right.
and these things they make sense when that day comes.
Yeah, we don't want them to,
This is the same sequence that we would treat a VMP. With last time, for example, when the airport was in front of us for their 5-year vegetation management plan, we treated it with the same order, the same scrutiny. And our review of it was accomplished the same way, and that was just a VMP.
Yep.
That wasn't a dam. So, yeah.
all right, so how long, Amy, do you think to put this out?
Oh, what did I say? I recommended continuing the hearing to May 26th. Give me some time to get quotes, engage someone, and maybe hopefully get a first round of comments. Yeah.
Who's going to take the lead on overviewing, reviewing the, overseeing the review? Is it be the town engineer, or is it going to be conservation staff is very competent in many, many ways, but this is going to be a complicated discussion. So if you guys are willing to lead it and then seek assistance from town engineer,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, John Borghesi's been very responsive and helpful, and, you know,
Yeah, he should be the guy.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
He should be,
okay.
I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
My
I mean,
2
that's
cents.
fine. I mean, I can be administratively, you know, managing
I
things.
see, so
We're trying to lessen your load there.
Yeah.
you think we should wait a month? Or
Well,
longer?
Well, let's
So-
do the
certainly won't be less.
26th, see where we're at, and then we can always continue if we need to.
Well then,
But at
I
least,
move
you
that
know.
we continue the damn project
Yeah.
till May 26th.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Well played, sir.
Next one. Can turn my page. Modification. It looks, it's 2 different applications. They're both of them after the fact. 242-1755, that's the builder, okay. 415 Ray Street.
The 2 filings, Mr. Chair, one is the homeowner,
Yep,
and one is the builder.
right.
Any reason why we couldn't hear them both at the same time, or?
They're two different decks.
Different responsible parties, right?
Two different,
Yeah.
yeah, all right, so. Wait a minute, I gotta find it, yeah. All righty. So, this first modification for Lot 4 is for a deck and stairs that was built by the builder. The approved plan did not show a deck on this particular house. So I thought it appropriate for the builder to come in for the after-the-fact modification. It's well outside the 50-foot no-build zone. It was, I think it's a perfectly approvable activity that would have been approved if it came before us. So it's just a matter of retroactively permitting it properly. And the after-the-fact filing fee has been paid, so, you know, I personally don't have any issues with it. It was just a matter of catching up.
Joe?
No question.
Al?
No question.
Tony?
Amy, is it pervious under the deck?
Yes.
It's not like concrete slab?
Yeah, no.
No questions.
Yep.
Motion?
I move that we grant the modification to 242-1755, 514 Ray Street. Lot 4. LRC Builders, just a distinction.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1755, 415 Ray Street, Lot 4.
Okay, so this after-the-fact modification, well, there's a couple of different things going on. So there's a request for after-the-fact modification for this stone, crushed stone area that the homeowner placed at this corner of the house with the intention of building a pervious paver patio on top of it. And he also wants to put a fireplace area at the corner, and then do some gentle grading on the sides of this riprap or stone to just make a gentle transition between the patio and the lawn. So the crushed stone is after the fact, and then the patio and the fireplace would be, you know, something that hasn't been done yet, but that he's seeking approval for. The other activity he's asking for is expansion of the edges of the driveway with a porous paver setup. So not all of it is in the buffer, it's just this last section of the driveway. But that would be, it wouldn't be asphalt, it would be pavers, sort of like a, you know, aesthetically pleasing and porous. So those are the things that are being proposed. All of it's outside the 50-foot no-build zone, perfectly approvable if it had, you know, if the crushed stone came before us or the idea of a patio came before us. So, yep.
John?
So down towards the bottom on the screen there and on the plan, is that, those eggs, are those, is that a wall? Is that,
Oh, yes, that's
All
the
right.
wall that was required.
excellent.
Yep, and it's been there since I've been, I
Good.
mean, it was one of the first things that happened.
No, I'm glad it's there.
Yep,
Because you can see when people start using the house, they branch out, they want the porch, they want
Yep.
the patio in the back, they want the driveway a little wider. So I'm comfortable with everything, but I am glad we have that wall there to at least limit, you know, the expansion towards the wetland.
yep.
So all of these lots came in with a comprehensive stormwater analysis that took into account the whole area, just because of the way the watershed was working. And it was pretty precise that it had to collect water in a certain way, and there was restrictions on pervious area and impervious area. So these modifications, by adding additional pervious pavement, theoretically doesn't compromise that analysis?
If we, yeah, I mean,
Remember,
that
question,
was
I asked a question during, I think it was a partial certificate of
no,
compliance on the
you're
same
right.
lot, right?
Right, but the pools were gonna receive like concrete, poured concrete
Yeah.
patios around them. This, you know, he's saying it's a pervious paver patio, pervious paver stones on the edge of the driveway.
This is lot 4, so this is not the other two that we talked about. The pools were lots 1 and 2, I keep forgetting, those were lots 1 and 2. 2 and 3? 2 and 3, okay. So this is not that one. All right, I'm all set.
I'm all set.
I am all set as well.
Yeah, I think this is kind of, and that kind of thing, even with the 4 favors, the difference in curve number, the way it's set up, they're gonna have that on the downhill side of the driveway where it all seems to pitch, so we'll actually probably benefit with a little more infiltration, so, no question.
Motion?
I'll move that we grant the modification as requested.
Second.
Sean
Second.
seconded?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay. Are we at the point that we need Jack?
Yeah, we're gonna get Jack and we'll do North Ramp Road first.
Okay, I'm texting him, and we'll just wait for him to call in.
Just while we're waiting for him to call in, I've had an opportunity to travel up and down 114 frequently in the past few weeks, and surprisingly, 3 of the times making that trip, Merrimack condominiums had a vacuum street sweeper in cleaning their lots on a regular basis, doing the job. Speaking of pervious pavements.
No, that's good. No, and I can tell you that the management office has been in close contact with me, just checking, making sure they understand the O&M and such, so they've been very communicative, which is good.
That's usually where pervious pavement will fail, is
Yeah.
lack of maintenance, and boy, oh boy, they've been doing it.
Yeah,
Did we reach out to Jack?
I did, I texted him.
All right.
Made it short and sweet, but we
Yeah,
can
let's-
do it until he comes on.
Let's
Well, we need it for 12:10, that's why I was
Yeah.
trying to combine them. But
We
we
need-
can go on the
yeah,
other
we're
two
trying to combine.
agendas.
skip over them and go to,
Okay,
We
and
have
four,
Winthrop Avenue Road down
yeah,
to
350,
Javelin,
350 Winthrop Ave, Enforcement Order.
Alrighty. Where is that? Alrighty, so, let me pull it up. So the commission asked for an updated snow storage plan, which we received. I have it up here. That doesn't look through. Okay, so, basically, some of the things that needed to be done since the last meeting is, all the exposed turf areas that needed hydro seeding, that has been done. Turf seed and non-toxic biodegradable bonded wood fiber was sprayed over for erosion control. Sloped areas closest to the BVW have been seeded with native wetland seed mix and blanketed with biodegradable erosion control blanket. Erosion control mulch shocks are still in place and secure, and our field inspector verified site conditions today. So the updated snow stockpiling plan, there are new snow stockpiling areas shown in yellow, has been designated to the northwest corner of the property and east side of the property. The easterly side is entirely out of the 100-foot buffer zone, and the westerly location is mostly outside the buffer, but it's in an area that was previously approved under the most recent order of conditions for the work on the stream down here. So this yellow area was previously approved. Approximately 16 new no snow, no salt stockpiling signs were added every 75 feet at the northwest corner and the northeast corner of the property. They're showing in red, the red dots are about 17 3,000-pound boulders to be placed along roughly the edge of the 100-foot buffer zone to the northwest corner here. Let's see. Then they're showing some overflow snow stockpiling locations in several locations in the green. So they've got. Oh, great, thank you. So I think we're in good shape. If the commission has comments about the plan, oh, there's boulders up here too, I'm sorry, up along here on the northeast.
17, 3,000-pound boulders?
3,000 pound, that's what the spec says on the plan,
They're already in place.
so.
Has anyone gone away yet?
Yeah, there's some out front in place.
This plan isn't stamped, and
No.
I'm not sure who prepared it. I mean, DSM Realty, in the address I recognize as Demoulas themselves, Market Basket themselves. And I happen to notice this area every time I'm shopping, and I don't think the boulders on this plan are where they are in the field. I don't think it's accurate.
Okay,
But again, I'm doing this from memory, and they're presenting a plan, but if this is what we're putting into the record and it's not stamped, I think I have an issue with that, because it doesn't look by juxtaposition that it's accurate. And I think the conversation that we had at the last meeting, Sean, I think you were involved in it, was, the last time we talked about this enforcement action was that we're proposing a fence. We talked about stones, and then in the end, we said both, and there is no fence. So I think I'm not sure if that ever got into the enforcement order, but I think it was fence and stones, fence and boulders.
yes.
And signs.
It's hard to see, but there is.
hard to see, I'm sorry.
There is a
On the
fence.
plan, but is it in place now?
Oh,
The
No,
fence-
it's not in place,
I didn't think so, 'cause the fence was not there on Thursday.
no. So,
So what is this in front of it? This isn't an as-built, this is just a proposal, right?
it's a proposal for snow storage management. So there is, like we said, there is a fence. Come on. Proposed. It's the black with dots. In consultation with the chairman, we thought maybe it really should be swinging up this way as well.
So
Right?
the boulders right now
Oh,
are closer,
so the boulders,
lot.
okay,
so it's more of a barrier.
okay.
They're closer to here.
All right. So Taylor says that, based on his observations, that the boulders, the current boulders existing are kind of right here, right along.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
That's what I
Right
visualized.
Right by the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's what it was supposed to be.
I always thought they would have protected people buying Christmas trees.
And are the boulders that are proposed in red or in green?
Green.
Okay. What's in red?
The signs, the signs.
Oh, it's-
And the fence in the back is to prevent any debris, from going into the swale.
just wanted to confirm the boulders were on the
Now, Joe, you said a stamped plan. On an enforcement order, do we need a stamped engineered plan?
Well, I'm thinking the snow stockpiling plan is an adjunct to the order of conditions, which has permanent requirements of snow stockpiling. So if it's not accurate, again, from memory, I'm saying it's not, I think, Taylor, you just demonstrated that it's not.
But it's not an as-built.
What?
Right? This isn't an as-built.
So is this just FYI?
It's a proposal.
Just an FYI?
This is a proposal in response to an enforcement order.
Right, yeah.
That's what this is.
I mean,
This isn't,
they spent some serious money here,
yeah.
and I think they'd be very foolish to do it all over again, because we're not going away.
Right.
You know, they've been known to be, and they've always been compliant when we catch them.
And are we gonna ask for an as-built at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the enforcement order? I want to go right back to an old filing, the older filing. This whole stormwater management area, that was right in the cusp when Jennifer was leaving and Amy was coming in.
The entrance.
But didn't that not get approved? Did that not go forward?
No, it got
It did-
approved, they just haven't,
They just haven't ever built it.
haven't done the work yet.
But that's gotta be close to expired.
That's,
And if they're showing it on this plan,
it's probably about a year,
Yeah, because they want to go
year,
underneath,
3/4 to 2 years in,
they want to go underneath that
or maybe
exit.
just under.
And they,
okay. So
Yeah,
still,
so we
if the
issued it-
snow, if they simply want to not stockpile snow behind it, I suppose that they're limiting themselves, but I guess they can show it, but I mean, at some point, they haven't even built that facility they're showing here. I think if this is considered only as for information only of what your intentions are moving forward, then I think it satisfies it.
Yeah.
But what I'm reading in the cover that comes with it is that this is an updated plan, see attached, and I think that implies to me that it's substituting the record drawer, the record plan.
Oh, yeah,
And if it's substituting the record plan, it's not accurate.
yeah,
Because the old plan is the record that has a snow stockpile.
Right.
If this is intended to update it, it needs to be done by, it needs to be stamped,
stamped, okay,
and it needs to be
No, I
made
get
into the
you.
record.
yep.
And why does it need to be stamped? Because what we're looking at doesn't depict what's on the ground out
What's on
there.
the ground. Gotcha. But do we want the boulders where they're proposing? The red dots?
Well, it's the green dots, right?
Correct, green dots.
I think,
Oh, the green dots, I'm sorry.
I think, from what I
Green
saw
dots, yes,
visually,
sorry.
I think we should leave the boulders where they are
And have the plan show it accurately.
and have the plan show it.
I
They're
agree.
they're out by the parking lot.
I would agree with
That keeps everything out of that yellow area.
But that yellow area was a place that they were gonna put snow based on the most recent
Well,
order
they-
of conditions.
They cleaned it all, loomed and seeded it.
You know,
Yeah.
we're wrestling with incomplete information, that's what we're trying to do,
Yeah.
we're trying to make this thing fit, and it doesn't fit. If this is the record plan, it needs to be accurate.
Yeah,
If we like the boulders where they are, well, then they're where they are, and they should be shown accurately on this plan. If this is where they want them, then they need to move the boulders, then I guess if that's the case, we need to give them that direction. What I don't have is any solid surveying information that I can hang my hat on and say which is more accurate, and which is, you know, how can we make a good decision of where we want those boulders?
right.
Because we just don't see it.
I agree that it's fair. You want to put it to the plan, but on an enforcement order, if, once it's been compliant, we usually just approve it. Now, they've done everything that we asked, and they just want to release their enforcement order. Now, moving forward, if they want to do any type of development, then we could go after them. Like, if they want to continue, they want to move that swale from behind the gas station. They did that, but there's another area underneath that exit area, halfway up the swale that runs along 114, that they didn't do, because they found out that it was intermittent stream. Up above was not. On the other side of the entrance was. I don't know how they figured that out, but, so what it is, Tony, when you come down 114,
Yeah.
you take the right to go into Market Basket. The right side of the brook was stream. The other side of the entrance was not, where the swale goes. About halfway down, it becomes a stream. So there was a break in the middle of it.
Don't what I'm getting hung up on is, we took an enforcement action, and in essence, are resulting in a modification to the order of conditions. By substituting this as the snow stockpiling plan, which is part of the original order, in essence, we're modifying the order, or amending the order.
So the order's open, so yeah, I would agree that
That's what we're doing, when we didn't mean to do that.
You ought to open though.
Yes, it
Yeah, it's got another
Oh, yeah.
year and a half.
There is.
Yeah. We issued it July of 2019.
Okay. So then what Joe says is right. If there's an open order, if there was not, if it was the original one from 50 years ago,
Right. They haven't, yeah, they haven't done the work yet, but
no,
I guess that doesn't matter.
No.
Oh, okay.
they didn't want to do it because it wasn't cost effective.
So procedurally, it's not a big hiccup. I mean, before they close out this project, they'll put a modification in front of us that will include this, will be an after the fact modification, most
Right.
likely. We'll probably waive the 3 times the fee because we haven't given it an enforcement order. And then they get their COC when they do it, when, you know, if that day we're able to come.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we could probably condition it as part of the final sign-off.
Yeah.
Because it's through an enforcement order and say that this is their plan, but prior to, they have to file a modification,
After.
Yeah, I mean, they can do it now if they want. I mean, procedurally, that'd be great, but I don't know if we want to compel them to do that. But, it'd just be housekeeping before the thing got closed out.
They've done what we've asked. So if the order is open, when they do come to file, to act on the order, we can tie this in. Because then it could
We
change.
just take this as information and not enter it into the record as an updated plan under the order.
Well, we do want them to do this work sooner rather than later, right? So, I'm not sure, Joe, I think your interpretation of whether or not that plan needs to be certified it's more up your alley than it is mine. So I certainly trust your judgment in that regard, but I just think procedurally, whether it's that plan or a different plan, let's lay out where, if we like where the boulders are now, it's just have them do a different plan than what they have in front of us, showing that, I would think at this point, or otherwise working with our administrator to determine the meets and bounds of where those boulders are or where they're gonna remain.
I'm not talking about the certification part of it, what I'm using is the certification part as evidence, a reasoning behind a plan that's not accurate. Plan that's presented to us as accurate,
Yeah.
not being accurate. And, if it were done by a certified agency, you had a person whose stamp was, you know, on the hook for it. Right
Right.
now, we don't, we just have a document issued by the company.
Yep.
That was my point. So, if we like the boulders where they are, then this plan should be changed for information to show us where those boulders are proposed.
Do we want the fence right where the boulders, right behind the boulders? Or do we
No.
want it?
So the conversation started with the fence,
Yeah. separation,
and we just said, you know, those machines will eat up a fence in about 2 seconds. So Louis' position was, you know, put something solid in front of it, they won't hit them twice, and they'll protect the fence. So I think we said 10 feet between the boulder and the fence.
Yeah, the way that's shown, the offense is proposed at the wetlands, not 10 feet from the boulders.
Okay.
So we can't rescind this, we can't accept this enforcement order anyways, because the fence hasn't been installed. Right?
Right.
Well, when you say accept this enforcement order, I mean, they weren't asking us to close it out.
It's an update.
Yeah,
Oh, it's just an update?
yeah, I mean, this isn't gonna be closed out until that's 100% done.
I think they're
Okay.
looking for, I think they gotta be looking for our approval.
Right.
They're showing us a plan, and they gotta be saying, okay, does this comply with your enforcement order?
Yeah. it's a-
That- Why else would they submit this
So-
information?
I'm pulling
So we
up-
need to answer back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the answer is keep the boulders where they are, put the fence still 10 feet behind the boulders.
Well, so I,
And what, recorded on a stamp plan, do an as-built with an RPLS?
Or file a modification.
File a
beforehand,
modification request.
If they want to do, you know, I think either's a valid way to handle it.
Either way,
Yeah.
I mean, if the NOI's open, we would only accept the stamp plan as an as-built.
Yep.
So,
So-
let's work towards that.
so right now, I just pulled up the plan that was under the most recent order of conditions. Seasonal sales area and snow storage,
Yep.
and there's the boulders. So this is a plan that the commission accepted for that.
But the boulders aren't on this one. You're on the
No,
backside.
but that's what, they want to move the boulders here because this was the intention of, this is,
No, we
That
wanted
was-
the boulders, where the boulders are is where I thought they were gonna go, to keep them out of that area.
I know, but this plan says seasonal sales area and snow storage.
We're looking at an area photograph there. I believe those boulders you're seeing in that photograph is historically where those boulders always used to be.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Then came this project proposal that is
If you orient
before
the
us.
plan- If you orient the plan to the photo,
It's backwards.
You can see what I'm talking about.
yeah, I see it. I see exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
With the exception of 2 or 3 boulders.
Well, here's the buffer zone, right? So they were staying out of the buffer zone with this area as snow storage, right here. Like,
Stockpile area up closer to the
Yeah.
building, I believe.
I don't know that the boulders preclude
No.
a front end loader from driving back and forth in there, which is,
Well, the boulders that I saw are closer to the pavement.
yep, that's the row kind of by where the
So
Brigham side of the
The
parking
aerial
lot was.
photo does not match the plan.
right.
It doesn't match the plan.
But,
The plan shows the
but the
boulders.
plan shows that this area was intended for snow storage, because this plan that we have up right now
Yeah, They
is
just,
what was approved by the previous order of
We're hanging
conditions.
up on the boulders.
right, we never approved the
The-
boulders.
The original conversation when this project came in originally was silent as to the boulders. It was all about snow stockpiling and water quality, suspended solids removal by a treatment area, which is that whole swale and pre-treatment area before it hits the swale. They were always gonna snow stockpile there. What happened this past winter is they beat the snot out of this whole area, tore it up, mud, had snow in the wetlands, they had no control whatsoever. They got an enforcement order. in the course of discussing that enforcement order, we said, you're not gonna do that anymore, one, you're gonna restore it, two, and three, you're going to give us a physical barrier. You're gonna give us a fence. We started out with a fence. Louis says, fence is not enough. We also need boulders. First time boulders came up in the conversation. We need boulders. We all agreed it was a great idea. So, these boulders shown here aren't what's out on the field. I think those are the boulders. They haven't done this yet.
Right.
I don't think they've done any of this yet, other than the signs.
Oh, yeah, it's
If
not
the
a-
boulders are our direction under the enforcement order, we should be able to accept this as a concept, provided that they file a final as-built stamped by a PLS, showing the locations of the boulders in their final placement.
Yeah, now what was silent in this whole enforcement action that I kind of just danced right over is, we all know that this has always been their snow stockpile area, and this has been a problem area. So the fact that they did that again this year, and they don't have that treatment area built, theoretically is a violation, but I don't think we will go in there. This is just a continuing activity of what they've been doing for decades. So, but they still, if they want to continue to use this for snow stockpiling, they have to build this treatment area. Whether they don't want to screw around with the driveway culvert or anything, they still have to build this treatment area.
I thought that was already done. I hadn't researched that. But I saw that it was all grassed and leveled off and the stones. I said, wow, they're doing a good job. I didn't know they
haven't
hadn't
built any of
created
it.
the swale yet,
They
you're
didn't
saying?
build any of it. All they did is clean up the mud and reseed it.
Is that correct? You've been out there, Taylor? So they haven't done the swale yet?
No.
What the hell, what was the excavator there
It's the
for, a
only
picture?
tone they have, because they haven't done it yet.
No, so this is, piece
They're
of
making
paper is
making it sound like
worthless.
it is, but it's not.
This is the future, Lou.
Huh?
That plan's the future.
Yeah, I know.
Proposing.
So,
So we need to respond back.
Yeah, I think we respond, the proposed plan is, we don't like where they have some of the boulders, and to point out where they should be.
And part of the enforcement order was rebuilding that treatment area. Correct, Joe?
Well, that's what he's
No,
doing.
it's in the order.
It's already in order condition,
Yeah,
that
that's-
still has a year and a half left on it, year and a half life, so that's fine. The record plan, this one that's on the screen, this one that's on the screen here too, that shows the limit of snow stockpiling closest to the treatment swale, correct?
yep,
The fence should be along that limit of snow stockpiling,
okay, yeah,
and that's where the sign should be
Okay.
as well.
gotcha.
The boulder should be 10 feet up gradient from that fence. That plan that they've submitted needs to reflect that. It almost does. Unfortunately, that's not what's actually out there.
Right.
Right.
So, this is a proposal of what they're gonna do.
Yeah, we're asking them to hold 10 feet off the proposed fence.
That's the only difference here is that 10 feet, exactly. I think the fence is probably on that line. The signs are behind the fence where that belongs. And just the boulder should be a 10-foot separation. I think that's all this plan needs to have changed to be a proposal.
So we do have representatives on the line with us. Norman, are you with us?
I'm here, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Yep,
And Chris from Delory Construction is also on the line.
okay.
So at the last meeting, the board requested a plan, a proposed plan on how we would do the fence and the signage and the boulders. That's what we presented. This was not presented as anything other than a proposed plan for your nod. And I've heard everything, I just couldn't speak during this conversation. We will get this stamped by our engineer. That's no problem. But this was a concept plan, if I recall, as to what the order of, or the proposed order was. So we're asking for you to look at the proposed plan, tell us what you want, we'll make whatever changes we have to, and then we'll stamp it and resubmit it to the board. The swale is not built yet. the swale we're getting pricing on as we speak. The boulders that you see along the edge of pavement currently, those are put there to keep cars and kids from driving on the mud, the loomed area that we've reseeded. They can be moved. Matter of fact, we usually keep a row of boulders along that edge of pavement all year long until the tree company comes in to sell his Christmas trees, and we move a few aside for snow storage. So from there, I don't know what you want me to do here.
What we just talked about is the plan that you submitted as supporting document of the enforcement action is what we asked for. And if you're asking for comment, what we suggested was the proposed location of where the boulders are shown on that plan should be separated 10 feet in front of the fence. And that's the
Not a
only,
problem.
and that's the only change we're talking about. And that
Okay,
that this is, if it's for information, that at some point, when you go to build the actual treatment swale and treatment area, the retention area, you'll need to file a modification to make this plan part of the record. Those are the only two steps, I believe.
got it.
I believe in the comments. There was discussion of extending the fence around the corner.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
The fence around the corner,
And where's that?
So the fence ends
right side.
right before
Right
that
there.
area kind
Ends
of
right
turns to
there.
the right. So it ends right there.
We're gonna just swing in it this way.
You tend it southerly towards
Yeah,
the swale,
yep,
if you will. Yep.
okay,
How far would you like?
Make it an
All the way to there?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
to stop pushing it into
Yeah.
the swale. That makes
So
sense.
extending the fence, boulders 10 feet off the fence, and then
Mhm.
modification to the existing order with the stamped plan.
Does that need to be a motion?
Yep.
She's still with the applicant, I believe.
Modification would happen when? Before or after the build of the swale?
You should get the
Before-
modification before you build the swale,
Before,
before you actually stop the construction on the swale.
I would say before applying for a certificate of compliance, because this is kind of an enforcement order, we're asking them to do it. I wouldn't want to see them hold the swale up for getting it back in front of the board. I think the swale's more important than the procedural steps. If they're out getting pricing now, it's,
Just makes it after the fact as opposed to something that has to preemptively
all right.
avoid it.
It's a,
so I agree. I think the modification should be done before. So when they come before us, we got the plan, modification,
And the record's clear.
record's clear, and the enforcement order, we get it, right now, make it go away by them doing the work.
Sure.
So did you catch that, Norman?
So, is what he's saying, he wants the fence and the boulders in place prior to building the swale? Because
No.
building the swale would be very difficult
No,
with everything in the way.
no, we would want you to come back with a stamped plan with the changes that we discussed under a modification request before you build the swale.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, and the only two changes you're looking for is 10 feet from the boulders to the fence and the return of the fence southerly towards the swale, towards the existing swale, 114.
Yes.
Got it.
Great. So, is that a motion?
Okay, anything else for me?
Motion.
Yeah,
I move that we ratify the enforcement order as it just dictated.
discussed.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, Norman.
Was that the quick enforcement order we're gonna do?
Yeah, that was
Jack
a quick
was
one,
on
but Jack was online.
Okay, we're going back to
We gotta see
242.
if- we gotta see if we still have Jack.
We still have Jack?
I hope so.
That was 20 minutes ago, we told him to hang in there.
Jack, you there?
Mayday. So he's not answering, we probably lost him. Let's-
I don't dare do another enforcement order.
Don't do that. No, no, no.
Don't
let's
do that.
All right, North Andover.
Well,
I got a call back.
Is that him?
it sounds like Jack.
Is that you, Jack?
Is he muted? We heard him. Maybe he can't hear us.
I thought it was him.
Jack?
I'm not getting any answers either.
We just heard him.
I know, I feel like we just heard.
What was he saying? I'm gonna call back. That's what I heard.
Yeah, that sounded like his voice.
It did, yeah.
That was him. He said I'm gonna call back.
From where?
I wish I could ask him.
Somewhere in,
Down the road, but trying to go get
Hello.
another Mai Tai.
hold on.
Hello, this is Jack.
Oh, hi, Jack. Okay.
We need to turn Jack up.
Sorry.
Blackjack,
Yes.
okay, we're gonna assume we have you.
Oh, we do.
All right, good.
Okay.
Right, Jack, we're gonna do, 135 North Ramp Road, which is the Rosa project next to the airport.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Amy?
Alrighty, so,
So wait, for the record, Lou Napoli is going to recuse himself for North Ramp Road back to the business. And Tony is going to recuse himself as well, so the
Okay.
quorum will be Jack Maben, Sean McDonough, Bill Lynch, and myself. Now that we got that out of the way,
okay, great. So,
let's go ahead.
the subcommittee met a couple of weeks ago and prepared specifications for borings. And I shared that with airport manager and the applicant's consultant, and I'll pull that up. And we prepared a map of the locations as well. I know, Joe Lynch, we talked about groundwater sampling. But I think before we start naming contaminants to test for, we kind of would need to know what's in the fill material to identify potential contaminants of concern. So that's why I worded it that way. But,
You've got bullet items on this,
Yep.
so that's what we're looking for, right?
Yep.
Bullet items?
yep,
So we're gonna ask for the borings and retaining the samples,
retaining
the
some.
gradation and the description of the samples, but they need to retain those, because depending on what we find, that may require that analysis for materials that could become quite costly. But we don't want to do that on every single sample right out of the gate,
Okay, right.
but depending on what we find. The other thing we talked about in the last discussion was refusal, and what refusal is when the hammer in the split spoon can no longer advance through the material.
Okay.
And we don't, I think what we want to do is we want to anticipate that might be the case if they hit, what was the phrase was used, an engine block or something solid. Remember? So if refusal is hit at an elevation higher than the original ground elevation, they need to abandon that boring and move it, some specified distance, 5 or 6 feet, in the vicinity of that same location, and then continue the sampling.
Okay.
So in virgin ground, if you hit something solid like that, chances are it's boulder or ledge. But in a fill material, you shouldn't encounter anything. So someone, I think it was Jack who raised the question, it was a very good point.
This area is perfect for hitting almost anything.
We want to know what's there.
Exactly.
Right, but if you hit refusal, how are you gonna know what's causing the refusal? Or are you just gonna hit it and move on to something else?
Maybe what we're looking for, maybe something solid that shouldn't be there.
Right, but when
Right.
you get a sample of it, and it doesn't, it's not able to penetrate it,
Doubtful,
doubtful.
doubtful.
So then we move it over and we don't get refusal, and we're like, what the hell did we just hit 10 feet over? We don't know.
We can jump off that bridge when we get to it.
It's a leak off that bridge. The reality is we've been told repeatedly through this whole process
Yeah.
that this is glass.
That's what we've been told.
So we should find nothing. If we find something, then we're finding something that's contrary to what we've been told.
If what we've been told is accurate,
Yep.
and I have no reason to believe it's not, that auger should make it down to the parent material like a hot knife through butter. And if it doesn't, then we know that there's something wrong.
That's it.
So if we hit refusal, then we just don't move over 10 feet, we investigate further.
Well, we do both.
We do both, right.
We do both.
Yep.
Because you want to get to the parent material. That's the goal.
And also to find out what the hell's in there.
Well, both. Both, but getting to the parent material might be more realistic than finding what is down. If you go down 90 feet and you get a refusal 10 feet above parent material, it's very unlikely we're going to find out what's in there, unless we decide to excavate out a couple of trillion tons of glass. So, like I said, it's unlikely. It's easier to get to the Titanic.
Yeah, we'll deal with it when we come upon it. Should we come upon it? I mean, there's lots of partial remedies, including, whatever we find, we simply report to DEP, because their permit was to bring glass in and something solid's there. Yeah.
And that's, I agree.
We probably will not find anything, let's hope that's the case.
So do we want, the bullet items, Joe, the borings, groundwater depth samples, everything that is listed, we want that to become the requirement?
Yep, I think so, and I think just before that last bullet is when we add that section about refusal. Yeah. Yeah, if refusal is encountered at an elevation higher than the original ground elevation, then the boring will be abandoned and shifted within 5 feet of that same location and advance down to parent material in that location. That'll
So that you want that added?
add it into that,
Okay.
because that leads right into the should contaminants of concern be found.
I agree, I just want to make sure we're doing it.
And who's gonna supervise this?
Well,
To make sure that if they hit refusal, they move over 5 feet and we know that they hit refusal.
did we agree at any point in previous hearings to engage the services of, yeah,
We haven't done that yet because we didn't even know what the hell they were reviewing. So we're getting close to that.
so I think we want our guy there. I think everybody would agree that he's got the right qualifications for this work. Does anybody disagree? Do we need to get a different person? But I'm not trying to sell anything one way or the other. I'm just trying to get it moving here. Because I think Amy and I have spoken about this.
Qualifications from a water quality perspective and the issues we're dealing with on another project. He's very capable of dealing with those. I don't know, this is more of a hybrid in the soils analysis realm, materials analysis, as opposed to hazardous materials. But it's both, so I think a guy of this sort has the ability to understand if something solid is wrong, just move it and document it. Just move the boring and document it.
So, I guess what I wanted to clear out, one of the things I wanted to get crystal clear tonight as we go forward is, you and I have talked about having our third-party guy there, the same guy that we used on the neighboring property. Does anybody object? Does anybody disagree?
I agree.
Yeah, I'd like to have a person there on behalf of the commission. You guys
I mean, I'm not saying that Amy's not capable, but Amy and I talked about it, and I think she has a greater comfort level with a guy with his experience. I think. Tell me if I got it wrong. I'm not putting words.
Yep.
Jack?
I do not object. Can you
No.
hear me?
We just heard you say that. Do you want to add anything, Jack? This is, I'd like to hear from you.
Well, we were talking about refusal and at the advent of that on the boring process. And I think Joe handled that perfectly. The only other thing that I actually thought of after our subcommittee meeting and discussed a little bit with Joe was, would it make sense to have a monitoring well, a water quality monitoring well at the base of that slope, like in the vicinity of that closest wetland flat? That way we can see. That way, we can see the results of any water contamination right off the bat, and we would know for sure if we need to take any remediation action, on the fill material, based on the water quality. So that's one other thing that I think should probably be considered.
I agree.
Yeah, Jack, you're right. You raised that in the subcommittee, and, I think we did agree that a monitor well made sense. I'm looking at the boring location sketch that Amy put together. Do you think that's in number 2? Boring number 2 is where that should go? Because I think it's either 1 or 2 is where it should go. Pick one. And I pick 1 or 2 because it's down gradient from the proposed infiltration, and with that well, if it's left behind, we'll always have the ability to go out and sample it in the future if need be.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Impact the budget? I mean, adding GEI and adding a well, plus the 5 borings.
Well,
Within the borings, if they come back clean, I think we're well within the realm of affordability. If they come back dirty, or if they hit refusal and they have to move on, it's good. Obviously, that number's a moving target.
right.
I think we had GEI into the mix. We compromised it, but so be it.
And I'm just, understand, my suggestion for putting GEI in there is because we know the company, we know the engineer, we've been working with them right next door.
Yeah, I think a scope to GEI should be clearly defined. Much like a dam project, in the phases of what he's looking at depends on what we find in the earlier phases. And if we're asking a competent person to be out there witnessing the advancement of borings, the retrieval of samples, the chain of custody of the samples, the observation of what they encounter or not encounter, and document that, those 3 or 4 days that they're doing borings, 2 to 3 days that they're doing 5 borings, shouldn't be a lot. What I don't want is our third-party consultant to take that beyond that and start doing a whole bunch of analytical work on their end, because it's far beyond the scope. We find something that needs to be analyzed and reviewed, that's a different story. But if we're looking at 3 or 4 days, even at a couple $100 an hour, what are we looking at, $1,600 a day? We'll probably look at a $5,000 bill for third-party review. Leaving the balance of the airport and applicant's budget to the borings. And again, what we don't know is where do we go depending on what we find.
And that's the problem.
But we need to start somewhere.
Have to
And we've been
start.
spinning our
So
wheels
let's-
for 5 months,
Yeah, so let's engage them.
almost a year, actually. Yeah.
Let's engage GEI and just take it one day at a time. Jack?
Do we have an escrow account to get them on contract?
No, we don't have an escrow. My understanding is we have cooperation.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I heard that.
So I think that the cooperation is as good as, if not better than, escrow. I don't think escrow is required based on the level of cooperation we're receiving from the landowner.
Okay. Okay.
Hold on, Joe.
I think,
Joe's
well,
gonna-
I'd be concerned with an agreement between the airport operator and the tenant as what they're willing to spend on this effort. Keeps the money in control through the airport unto themselves. Now,
Yeah, the tasks-
what I don't know is, we're gonna be on the hook of paying our consultant. I think it does require escrow.
Well,
It can come out of the same pocket, but I think we need to hold that escrow to pay our consultant.
Okay, so why doesn't somebody move to establish an escrow account and we'll pass it
Move the
along?
established escrow account, sum of $5,000 for the purpose of, yeah.
All right, I have a motion and a second to establish escrow in the amount of $5,000. Is there any discussion? I hear none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, so we have an escrow, we have a motion to establish escrow. We have a work list with bullet items with an additional amendment to it to go forward. What more needs to be done, guys?
I mean, we have project representatives with us this evening. Do we want to give them the floor at all?
If anybody from the project that wants to be heard, now's the time.
Amy, let me just ask, my understanding is this outline spec.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Miller. I'd like to speak, but I'll let Mr. DeRosa speak first.
Okay, Mr. Miller, Mr. DeRosa, if you'd like to be heard.
Which DeRosa?
Whichever one feels compelled to speak, it's not required.
Robbie, do you want to handle it or do you want me to handle it?
You don't have to comment if you don't want to. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, Charlie, just don't comment. We're a tenant at the airport.
And that's no problem. And you can change your mind if you want as this discussion goes on.
Right.
If you decide you want to speak, just call out and I'll recognize you, okay?
Okay.
No,
thank you. Charlie, let it go.
All right, so let me just get Mr. Miller, if you don't mind, and Mr. DeRosa, and I'll get back to you, I promise. We won't close it out without hearing from you. Mr. Miller, if you'd like to, and again,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate.
and you're under no obligation to comment either, unless you want to just tell us you agree, disagree, or if you have anything that's concerning you.
No, I agree. I just want to give you an idea of what I will be working towards. I thank you, number one, for clarifying bullet number 4, because I was kind of confused by that. As you know, once I get the revised specifications you talked about, I will be preparing a scope of work, because I have to go out under the state procurement laws and acquire 3 quotes on this project. So it's helpful for me to have as much specificity in these specifications as you can provide. So I thank you for that. The second item is, thank you also for identifying the locations of the borings, because I am under a requirement, being an airport, federal law requires me to file a notice with the FAA of proposed construction alteration.
What is that?
So that notice has to contain precise locations of where the work's going to take place in terms of lat long and elevation. So the diagram that you did send over is going to be helpful in me providing that. They require 45 days advance notice for them to come out with their findings. And typically it's going to be something along the lines of notify the airport and don't keep it up overnight and so forth. So I don't anticipate an objection to this work going forward. It's just I have to do it as a matter of law. So I want to make the commission aware of that as well. I expect I should have an answer from them probably by the end of May, if not the first week of June. So as soon as I have the revised specifications, including the amendments we made this evening, work on the scope of work, shop that around to 3 individuals capable of performing that work, get the pricing that we need, and also simultaneously we'll have filed with the FAA the notice of proposed construction so that I can get their approval to erect the derrick to do the drilling. That's all I just want to add.
Is that filing with the FAA? Is that a Part 7 filing?
Yeah, it's 7460, and it is because of the airspace, correct?
Gotcha.
It's because it's under 14 CFR Part 77.
All right, so we can get you, Amy can get you whatever you need to get that filing in timely, so we can get it going.
She provided the locations already, which is great. I have those now. I'll be able to do the lat and long on that. It's the only thing I'll need is the revised or updated specifications so that I can then develop the scope of work. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to lean on an individual I rely on heavily when environmental matters are concerned. I'll ask Randy Christensen for some input on drafting that scope of work.
No, we know Randy, so he's well known here. So, all right, and GEI, you heard us escrow money for the purpose of procuring GEI services as a commission expert.
Yes, I did. I did hear that.
Okay. All right, very good. Any members of the commission want to comment? I hear none. Mr. DeRosa, we're going to continue this very shortly. Again, you're under no obligation to speak. If you had a question or a comment, I would give you the floor. If you don't, it's absolutely no problem. And Jack Mabin. Blackjack, if you're all set?
Yeah, I'm good, Al.
All right, very good. Thank you. Mr. DeRosa, in or out?
Hello, probably out for now because
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time. All right,
Move to continue, sir?
motion and a,
To
Oh.
when? 26th of May? I mean, we hear this got some work to do to get. the-
and during the continuous period, this information that's required to be turned over to the airport will be done so, and we'll arrange to procure the expert, GEI. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks.
The next one that I'm going to be chairing is 1210 Osgood Street, a request for change in monitor and frequency. The applicant wishes to relieve Williams and Sprague. Says, why don't I let Amy, why don't you
Sure.
cut right to it?
So,
We all have a printout, so.
okay, so the applicant is looking to relieve Williams and Sparagus from their monitoring, weekly monitoring of the residential side of the project, and assign that duty to Paul McManus with Ecotech. You'll recall that Paul is monitoring the wetlands for growth, enhancement plantings, pH levels, and keeping an eye on for any new seeps out of the retaining wall. His reports have been favorable on all fronts for quite some time, and he monitors twice a month. The applicant would like for Paul to add erosion control monitoring to his duties during his bi-monthly visits. The applicant is also asking to eliminate extra monitoring visits after the half-inch or greater rainfall, as all of the stormwater management facilities are in place and fully functional. Most of the erosion controls on the residential side are removed, and things are very stable out there. I performed a site inspection with Greg Hockmith of Williams and Sparagus, our field inspector, and Matt Trider of NRP this week, and found conditions to be stable and well vegetated. A majority of the erosion controls have already been removed under approval by the commission. I asked Greg to provide a memorandum of his perspective on this request. He's very comfortable with the request. He feels that the site is in really good shape. There's just a couple of areas on the very steep slope behind the clubhouse that there's just bare spots that we're going to keep the erosion, the silt fence up at the toe of that slope just to allow, they're going to do some more seeding, but it's not really eroding, it's just some bare spots that are struggling a little bit. But otherwise, he's comfortable with the proposal and is in agreement. And that's to say that Williams and Sparagus would continue monitoring the commercial Signature Commons side. So they're just strictly talking about residential. Let's see. So considering Greg's comfort level and my confidence in Mr. McManus's ability and reliability, I'm comfortable recommending the commission approving this request for change in monitoring and frequency to 2 times a month. I don't know if the commission would want to consider maybe a really large storm event to be added in there, and I don't know what, what rainfall,
The DEP stormwater standard, it's 2 inches or more with NTUs greater than 40. It's all driven by turbidity, the frequency of monitoring and testing. So,
I mean,
we stepped that up to 1-inch storms, didn't we?
no, our,
What were they asking to relax it from, to what?
to none. But, you know, it's been holding up well with 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch storms very well, maybe even an inch. I mean, you know,
Stormwater standard for turbidity discharges for construction sites is, I believe, 40 NTUs or lower on storm events of 2 inches or greater.
okay.
I don't think we stray from that at all. So I think 2 inches and greater is what we're gonna obligate that they test. I thought we strengthened that by making the smaller sums, but and again, you're not gonna get high turbidity opportunities if that's the case, but the ultimate standard, we shouldn't relax at all, and that's what I just stated.
Our boilerplate is 1/2 inch or greater in our orders, and that's, you know.
And that was actually a good number for this project, when we were trying to get it under control. 1/2 inch was a good number. I understand the reason for asking. You know, things are stabilizing somewhat. I don't know about there's nothing in here on this report about the pH levels, the effluent, the influent and the effluent. Has there been any change?
Not really.
So the influent is still in the area of 12 and the effluent is still in the area of 7?
Yeah.
So-
The system is working wonderfully.
Well-
It's just that it's not naturally abating.
So yes, I agree, the system is working wonderfully, but also, since the minute we became aware of this, that influent hasn't changed. There's still a pH problem there. So, at the same time, we have to make sure that we stay on top of that. So as long as any action we take here tonight doesn't lessen or diminish that effort, I think that needs to be said. I think it definitely needs to be said. And once again, the airport is the neighbor to this one too, so they got quite a neighborhood they're in. Sean?
No question, sir. I'm all set.
Jack, you still out there, buddy?
I am. I guess I would add to your final comments, Al, that, yeah, I mean, what we're looking for is neutral water to be discharged, you know, from the final treatment structure. And, yeah, it's concerning that we have a very high pH input to that, but where the output is fairly low, it almost sounds like it's a very low flow being diluted quite a bit by the other water entering the system, and you know, lowering the pH to an acceptable level. So yeah, it's kind of hard to figure how we have such a high pH input but an acceptable output and the system working well. But I kind of think that's what's happening. So I think you're right. Let's stay with it. Let's make sure that the water exiting the system is acceptable. And if Amy and Greg are in agreement that this change in protocol is advisable, I'm also in favor.
Then, just to make sure we all understand, the request in front of us is to replace Greg Hockmuth with Mr. McManus to be the monitor, and to change from 1/2 inch to 2 inch with 40 NTUs as the baseline standard. Anything else?
Yeah, regular frequency 2 times a month.
And 2 times a month.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Hey, Tony, you voted on this, or? I can vote on this.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
I thought he was, listen, I thought Tony was recused on this. Because, yeah.
I had done some work for the
You gotta start
DeRosas.
wearing a sign with
Yeah.
the,
No, I had done some work for the DeRosas on the airport before, so that was the
Okay, yeah, please, I welcome you.
No, no, that's, I think this is reasonable. I mean, it's pretty well vegetated over there, and I don't see any.
And my question for you, Amy, the airport is fully read in on everything, because they are ultimately the recipient of the effluent. The wetland is on their property. The largest portion of the wetland is owned by them. So they're aware
Of this request?
of anything that's going on. I mean,
Well, generally, yes. Do
I
I
know.
talk to them every, no, I don't necessarily reach out on a regular basis, but
okay, I got you.
do you know what I'm saying?
Players on the team confused. McManus is the guy who also was, kind of following the seeps for us, and the environmental impacts on the critters and the habitat impacts. So, yeah, so he's the right guy, and he's also the guy that was looking downgraded for those impacts on airport land.
Yes, correct.
So we're not breaking that chain of logic.
I'm not objecting, all I'm just making sure is, because we're working with the airport on the neighboring property, and they are the direct abutter and recipient of the stormwater ultimately from this property. I mean, that's where it's just naturally going. I just want to make sure that they're in receipt of any information that they need as abutters. For lack of a better term, I guess we want to make sure their rights are protected as well as anybody else's. So I guess if we send them copies of updated documents or reports as a courtesy.
So the motion is to amend the order of conditions to make these changes, correct?
It's
It's been moved and seconded.
As an amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
as an amendment, yeah, yes, Joe, as an amendment, yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Okay, thank you. And Louis, I give you back the gavel.
Does that take care of the amendment as well, or is that just a
No,
modification?
it does not take care of the.
So that was put in front of us as a modification, we just,
I was gonna say, we need an amendment.
do it as an amendment.
Yeah,
We do need to amend the order, because
yes.
frequency was part of that.
Well,
Exactly.
well,
So
we
I
have,
move to amend the order of conditions in accordance
the order
with-
is opened, Joe. The order of conditions for this project is open. We opened it several months ago. We have not,
But
we,
this was a modification that they wanted to.
yes, but
to move
understand,
forward.
make sure everybody understands, this order is not,
Oh, no.
not closed.
No, they're
Um,
part and part, they're separate. They're separate.
Well, we have two matters in front of us for this project. One is a modification, one is the amendment. We just did the one that was the requested modification, we haven't
Right.
done the amendment yet.
Well, wait, where is there an amendment?
The next
It's the
line.
next thing down.
And what is the request, what is the request there?
So the amendment is, we had one hearing for the amended order that we initiated, and then COVID hit, and then we didn't do anything. So there's a need to resurrect this and get the ball rolling again.
Well, the items? The big ticket items
Yep.
were the bond
Yes,
and the perpetual conditions.
yep,
Several months ago, a representative for the applicant was going to submit to you a draft.
so we have a draft amended order, but I am working to reformat it. And
We're also going to run the perpetual motions by council to make sure that
right, right. So right.
we want them to, I mean, to really mean
So,
perpetual.
gathering information from the applicant on the cost for the O&M, the usual O&M, projecting that out for a new bond amount strictly for the treatment system. Cross agreements or responsibilities that are recordable for the landowners.
So what I'm hearing is
And then-
you have received their proposed amendment, as they see it. You're in the midst of reviewing it and compiling what will be an amendment that's before us, and we're not ready to take action on it tonight. Move that we continue.
Yeah, no. definitely, but I just wanted to get it back and, you know, refresh our memories and, you know.
Thank
That's
you.
all.
What I would like to see is, as documents like that come in, I'd like to see them
Yep.
circulated to the commissioners
And,
so that we can get read up on it.
right, and they will, and that's exactly what I'm doing, and, tandem to that, GEI is, assisting in reviewing those documents as
That's
well.
exactly what I wanted to
So
hear.
that's part of, kind of want GEI to have a crack at it, and then,
100%,
okay,
100%. I think we're on the
Alright.
same page.
all right.
So, Mr. Chair, as far as what we just moved before, which was, you know, switching McManus for Hawkmouth and switching the large storm rain events, that does seem like it is a modification and not an amendment.
Yes, yes.
So I just want my motion to be clear that that was moved as a modification, and do we all still agree?
Yes.
Okay.
I apologize for my confusion on that. I'm just trying to read from all my copious notes
Yeah,
here,
no, I
and
get you. I get you.
I sometimes put down too many notes for myself. I lose track.
Great.
All right, so with regard to 2421692, I recommend that we continue that and keep it open.
Yes, absolutely.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Do I-
Don't we need a date certain?
Say it again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't we need a date certain for the?
Yeah.
How much time do you need?
And Tony, are you able to vote on this amended order?
I don't know that I've seen enough, because I think it started before I was on the commission. Yeah.
Yeah, this started,
A lot of meetings.
Yes.
this started almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think I can vote on it.
The nightmare, yeah.
You've only missed one hearing, really, so, yeah,
Al, I have no comments on it. This is Jack.
okay, Jack has no comments.
Okay.
So,
Why don't we
May
continue
12th.
it, why don't we continue with 4 weeks? That
Okay.
way you don't go over the
All right,
time limit that we have to advertise.
yeah,
Then we can continue to May 26th.
Well,
okay. Oh,
Go ahead.
Jack?
I think, no, I'm looking at dates. 4 weeks is good for me.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. Anybody have any conflicts on that? Okay, 4 weeks it is.
Okay.
So moved. Again, second. All right. Do I hear a third?
Well, as you pointed out, we didn't vote on this before, right? We voted on something else?
Correct. We're
Okay.
just moving to continue this amendment.
So for this one, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That's unanimous as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
You're throwing curveballs tonight, Sean.
Hey, you know, life's full of curves.
Normally, I can hit the curve, but I don't know what's, there's something on it tonight. You get some stuff on it.
All righty.
So you can hand the gavel back over to Lou?
Lou, you're in charge.
Oh, gotta wake up now. 260,
If I did the math correctly, we should be at 268 Raleigh Tavern Lane.
you got it.
Do you have it? All right. So this is an enforcement order. Came to our attention, well, in, the commission will recall that, that you issued a determination of applicability for the deck expansion just outside the 50-foot no-build zone in 2019. On or about April 14th, the commission, the department was made aware of extensive ground disturbance, removal of turf, and use of equipment leading to exposed soils all the way to the edge of the wetland, and construction of a patio and stone concrete fireplace structure, a portion of the patio which is within the 50-foot no-build zone. The patio and fireplace structure was not on the approved deck plan. There was a limited work as part of the deck plan. And I'll pull that up. So, you know, there was an anticipation that there would be some disturbance, you know, between the deck and the erosion controls, that we would probably need some loaming and seeding after that was all done. But what had happened is the erosion controls were removed, and the rest of the lawn was just stripped right down to the fence at the edge of the wetland, with the intention of loaming and seeding. Conservation Department visited the site, talked to the contractors, stopped work, and in coordination with the chairman, we agreed that they'd be allowed to put sod down, and they did that within, it was Friday that we agreed, it was done by Monday, with some of the initial sodding happening that day or the next day at the 25. So, so we have a stable condition right now. We just have an unpermitted patio off to this side of the deck. And it does creep into the 25 based on our measurements from wetland flagging. So it's about 48 feet from the wetland.
How many feet?
48. You know, so it's just inside.
So closer to the 50, not the 20.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Into the 25, into the 50. So it's about 48 feet from the wetland, a corner of it.
That's just the patio, or is that the fireplace?
Just patio.
Okay.
Yep. Let's see.
Meaning the fireplace is outside the 50?
Yeah.
So if we were so inclined? They could theoretically cut the corner and be in compliance?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, when I first had contact with the contractor about this property, they were proposing the big deck that, you know, we're looking at. But they also had on that plan, you know, an extensive patio that they purposefully took off the plan just to do the deck and get through that permitting process. And I don't know whether the deck and the patio together would have been big enough to trigger a notice of intent. But, you know, I think they erred on caution, and they just wanted to get the deck done. But unfortunately, you know, patio was just, you know, done without previous approvals. So I don't know whether this is an after-the-fact RDA with a new plan that shows, you know, compliance with the 50. I'm not sure, so I'm kind of looking to the commission for that direction.
So, this patio is not, it is impervious, correct?
Yeah, it's pretty tightly.
Yep.
Say it's pretty tight.
And then I think if it were a driveway, we'd want them to justify getting it within 50 feet. So I don't think we'd look at this any different than that. And if they built it with it, you know, within 50 feet without asking us, well, they asked us ahead of time, we told them you can't do it. And now here they are after the fact, so I'd say, you know, abide by the 50. That's my thought. Yep.
Yeah, so we spoke generally, but now we need to get a little bit more specific. So the fireplace is outside the 50 and would comply. The corner of the patio, that would have to be cut out, how much of the corner? If we just simply say, you shall comply with a 50, that makes the waiver question go away.
Yep.
And that would also allow an RDA to move forward, in my opinion. notwithstanding that the rest of the other violations contained in the enforcement order, that all need to be addressed within a certain time frame. So I think that's where I am on that. If they, I can't imagine why they wouldn't want to cut off that corner, because it's the path of least resistance. And if that's the case, I'm all set.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I have a hard time granting somebody a waiver that did an after-the-fact project. And not even the building department was aware of this. So if we make him compliant and file the after-the-fact, then I'm comfortable with it, but this stuff we can't allow.
So if they decide to go that path of least resistance, they would need an updated survey plan showing existing conditions with,
meet the filing
meet the filing
requirements for an RDA.
yep, showing compliance with the 50.
If they're reluctant to cut the corner of the patio off, they can take the patio out. See which way they want to go. Yeah?
I need clarification on something. I'm looking at wetland flag 8, and I'm looking at a call out of 36.1 feet. What is that? It looks like a distance to the wetland from the corner of,
Of the existing building.
that's the existing building?
Oh, yeah.
So that's not part of the
Yeah,
construction?
no. The proposed deck is around the corner to the,
So the call that I should be looking at is 48.4 feet? Where it says metal fence? Where is it? Where am I?
I think between wetland flag 6 and 7, there's a witness line to the corner of the patio that says 52.8.
I see that witness line, I see that one.
But that's to the property line, that's not to the wetland flag.
right, exactly.
So you take the wetland flag itself.
So that's the point you're all talking about?
Yeah, I
So
think
the-
it is.
So the call-outs of 48.4 and 36.1 are to existing?
So what are you talking about in terms of,
Okay,
are
so,
you talking about patio or deck?
well, that's what I'm trying to determine,
Okay,
guys.
so-
Yeah, the patios,
The patio is, all right,
It's not depicted on there.
it's not depicted.
north arrow on the plan, except for the locus, but I guess it would be due
So, I'm looking
south
here,
of the
over
patio?
here. I got 48 feet here.
Patio
Yeah.
is off here,
So these call-outs are existing?
yes.
that what you're telling
This
me?
is the, yes,
This is existing, okay.
this was the proposed deck,
And that's the subject matter?
right?
Okay.
And then they did a patio
Yeah.
off this end.
All right.
And this corner is in the 50.
So that's what needs to come out? Okay.
Yes.
All right, very good.
Yes.
All right, so then, bring it into compliance. That's my answer. No waiver.
Okay.
You know, I have no question. My only question was where it said the removal of the patio fireplace. I thought it was in its entirety, but it's just the violating section, so, yeah, no issues.
The wood fence that's installed, is that old or is that new? Right there.
Oh, it's been there.
That's been there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's, that would definitely be in the 25.
Yeah, but you guys approved fencing
On the backside.
two permits ago under Jen, so we already covered the fence issue.
That wood fence would not be allowed. If it was now.
Right, but it was already reviewed.
And the backside metal fence
That was reviewed and approved.
is close.
I know, but you guys already looked at
This house
these
is
fences.
35 years old, probably,
Metal
or
fence-
more.
I don't think the metal fence is 35 years old.
No, I don't think metal fences, but I remember when the metal fence request came in to us, it was 2 or 3, 4 years ago. Maybe a little longer, but I remember the swings and the sandbox being in play and in discussion, and we allowed them to stay there.
That's right.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's anyone, Jonathan, are you with us?
Amy, can you hear me?
Yep. So Jonathan
you can hear me
Grasso, the
now?
contractor, is with us?
Yes, hi, I was just calling your cell phone. We were trying to get involved in the conversation, but I don't think anybody could hear us. So
Oh,
everybody
sorry.
can hear us now?
Yep, thank
Okay,
you.
no problem. All right, yeah, so I am the contractor. I pulled the permit. I attended the meetings to build the deck. I was not involved with any of the masonry work. Just wanted to make that clear. We came in, did the work. I kind of helped George facilitated the permitting process for George just because I kind of speak the language and he's not that familiar with all the everything that is involved with the permitting. And originally he had a grand plan, and I know that's not up on the board right now, but the master plan was to do a patio off of the deck. And I think at the time it was 2 years ago, in 19, George was trying to get it done that season, the deck. And time was running short, and we had to go in front of the board a couple times regarding the pre-existing non-conforming swing set and playhouse. So then we skinnied the plan down and just wanted to do the deck. By that time it was approved, I want to say it was the end of November. So the work, we got the permit and weren't able to start in the winter, so we did it in spring of last year. So we built the deck. We put up the erosion controls along the 25-foot, the 50-foot. No, we did it along the 25-foot no disturb zone. And we used the buffer in between 25 and 50 for the equipment to go in and out and obviously, disturb the grass that was there. And digging, I think there were 12 piers, 5 feet deep. And it was tough soil to dig through. There were a lot of boulders because that development was all blasted. And so it was tough digging. There was a lot of disruption. And we left and George was under the assumption, the owner of the property, that he could, everything was all disturbed. He might as well, do some of the patio work. In fact, I brought in a little bit of gravel for him, but I'm thinking doing a patio would be okay, but he ended up doing also the fireplace, which required a little retaining wall. And I went out there with George and we took ties to the outside corner of the fireplace, and that I came up with it being about, I think it was 1 foot 4 inches beyond the no build buffer line. But that's kind of the history of how this all happened. And can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's see. So then George this year was looking to restore his lawn that had been disturbed outside of the 25-foot no disturb zone. And the landscaper that he hired recommended replacing the whole lawn because it was all moss, essentially. Is that right, George? Correct. Yeah. So George didn't, again, I wasn't involved, but George didn't know that, a lawn replacement would require going in front of the board again. It's kind of a lack of education that the general public doesn't have about some of these sensitive issues.
Okay. So, Jonathan, when you say you took ties and it's 1.5 feet just outside, inches? Oh, inches?
Did you say feet or did you say inches when you took your ties?
No, I came with 1 foot 4 inches roughly.
Yeah, 1 foot 4.
I took ties from the corners of the house, the outside corner. Can you pull the plan back up, Amy?
Yeah.
Please.
Can you see it?
I guess that's the other option, if he wants to survey it in.
It's up on our screen. Can you see it?
Oh, there might be a delay.
Oh.
Let's see. Because I'm watching on TV.
Oh.
There it is. Okay.
Okay.
So the deck where it meets the house on the right side, when facing, back towards the wetlands, I took a tie from that corner.
This corner?
and then I took a tie from the inside corner. And that's how I got to the location where I was able to, plot it on my own computer screen. And from what George has told me, the mason that he hired for this little, 3.5 foot retaining wall that's kind of part of his fireplace, he worked within the erosion controls that I had installed myself.
So I guess, I think we're gonna need an updated survey to get exact location and,
Yeah.
I think it's a choice he can make. We need the patio to comply with the 50. In order for given it being as close as it is by this rudimentary pulling of ties, he should survey it. He's gonna need to anyway, just to get out from behind this whole certificate of compliance question. So get the survey done.
Yeah.
And you'll know exactly whether it's as you say that the patio is in compliance or it isn't in compliance, and if it isn't, how much of that corner needs to be cut away, because I think we're saying it has to be cut away. But in order to put that, you get your arms around that, you really need to, George needs to have this surveyed and entered into the record.
Okay.
That's my perspective.
I don't
Others?
think the patio was beyond the line. I think it might be just the corner of the that little retaining wall.
well, I measured a corner of something, and I thought it was about 48 feet, but again,
Okay.
The survey is gonna tell the tale.
Okay.
It was an RDA.
Oh, an RDA, so there's no as-built required. We need one now.
Yep.
We do.
Yep.
After the fact, right?
This is a pretty generous idea.
All right, we'll get right on that.
Okay. So I guess I would recommend the commission to issue a formal enforcement order requiring an as-built plan,
And requiring to bring the project into compliance.
requiring the,
Don't leave any ambiguity out there.
yep,
The step was to ratify the enforcement order as written.
yeah.
In those two things that we just
Okay,
added.
yeah, okay.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
So,
Just because of a little lack of audio clarity on my end, to confirm, we're going to get a surveyor to go out there, do an as-built to determine exactly where that corner is in relation to the 50-foot no-build line.
Well, I would think you can have a surveyor go out there and survey where things are, and then get it in compliance, and then give us an as-built once it's in compliance.
You really should get the whole thing surveyed and get the existing conditions.
Are the flags there, or you do it, pulling it to?
there's a few there, yeah.
I'd survey the whole thing, sir.
Maybe a couple fell down during the winter, but,
Yeah, before he submits the as-built, make sure that he knows that he has to be compliant.
right.
Is that clear? Are you good? On the phone?
I can't really hear anything that's being said right now.
So I think what we're ruling is that you gotta do a survey plan, get it in compliance, and then an as-built showing it's in compliance. Can you hear that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
And you guys are comfortable, I'm saying this correctly, right? Get it surveyed,
Yep,
get it in compliance, and get us an as-built showing
Yep.
it's in compliance, in that order.
okay,
Okay, thank you.
sure. Thank you.
So, after the fact, application, once it is in compliance?
Yes.
All right, okay.
No
continue for next meeting, or we're just gonna keep the enforcement
How
order
many weeks?
open?
How many weeks to approve? I'm thinking they're gonna need 4 weeks.
at least 4, so it's just give it for an update.
I'll move it continue for 4 weeks.
So, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. So let him know, I don't know if he can hear us, so.
I can hear right now.
Okay, so we're gonna continue it for 4 weeks, the enforcement order.
Give you a chance to get that done.
4 weeks, I might need to continue it for the meeting after that. 4 weeks is not a lot of time to get a surveyor.
Okay,
I just tried to get one today. He said 4 weeks is the earliest you could probably visit the site
Well, do you want us to
for
leave it?
for
at-
another job.
Do you want us to leave it at 4 weeks, and you can just check back, and if you need more time, we'll just continue it at the meeting for you?
All right, great.
just keep Amy abreast.
Will do.
And advise, too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the rest is decision time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I don't- Okay, first one is 242-1807, 108 Rosemont Drive.
Yep. Do you have it? Oh, Jesus. Do you have it?
Committed it to memory.
You did?
Well, just the highlighted part.
I'll give you extra Beechwood.
What?
I'll give you an extra Beechwood when we get to it.
Okay, thank you.
So did you give Rosemont?
I didn't, but you want Rosemont?
Yes, that's true.
I do have. There you go.
So, Amy, there was one thing discussed during the hearing process where Mike suggested he didn't know, and none of us would know where the catch basins were going. But we asked that they protect them, and they're not shown on the plan that way, but is it conditioned that the catch basins be protected? 46, got it.
Just that the order requires, I'm sorry, not 44, 43. Silt socks, which I'm assuming is what we want, and then the plan just shows actual hay bales with silt fence. So just make sure that during the pre-con they know.
Okay. I wasn't sure that this warranted the erosion control blanket.
No, I think for the homeowner, you know,
Yeah.
it's,
Okay.
yeah. It's not a ton of work, and an extra roll on site is, maybe we should start stocking it, and we can rent them out to people, and then they can return it
I
at the end of
know.
the.
Well, actually, Taylor and I talked to Middleton Farm Supply and said, you know, we're going to start requiring that, so you might want to have it on hand, so. I don't know.
Condition 56. Emphasize that failure to comply to result in a stop work order for the site. Why 56 and not all of them?
I know.
It just drives me crazy.
I'll take it out.
It's like this is the only one you have to pay attention to. Everything else is, you know, frivolous.
Forget about it.
So you don't want 56 in it?
No, 56 I want, I just, the end, about failure to comply may result, just that last sentence, that's all.
Only because, keep going back to Mr. Cormier's house.
Tony might have been involved in that.
Back in
the, you were.
Were you involved in the house we moved? Yes. So that was the
But
genesis.
it was Peter who represented the applicant.
Peter Ogren, but
I was a lowly surveyor back then, so.
that was the genesis for this condition.
No, that's, you'd be surprised at how often foundations get moved in the field for one reason or another, a foot here or a foot there.
I
and-
think it's in good condition, I mean.
Yeah, no, it's,
Well, the condition's good, I'm saying, but failure to comply may result in a stop workload on site. It almost implies that these others are not as important.
No, what it tells me is that,
Oh, I don't want to beat it up, and if you want to leave it in, it's been there for
yeah,
years,
no,
probably.
I could see, if you had your framers ready to go, and then you got stop work, you're gonna be way more upset than any of the other conditions, depending on where you are for earthwork and that sort of thing.
That's true. Yeah.
it's easier to move it if it's not brand new.
That's correct. We learned that too. It's,
Or occupied.
I'm just saying, I mean, I appreciate framing, but boy, once they get it up there, once they get it up and tie it together, you gotta move it. Yeah, it's not easy. That's no good.
Sean, any questions?
No, thank you.
Joe?
I'm all set.
Al?
I am also all set.
Tony?
all set?
Motion?
Motion, we accept the orders of conditions as drafted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Hey.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1808 Beechwood Drive.
So I just ran out of time, so I have to just fill in all the site plan information. But I will. I did 3 rolls of the biodegradable. It's kind of a big site. I don't know if it needs more.
No, it seems. It's a decent site. I mean, it's just meant to be a stopgap, that if there's an emergency, there's a blow, you have something on hand.
Yeah,
And
it's not gonna cover
it used
the
to be
whole
done
site.
back when you did straw bales and hay bales.
Yeah.
That used to be a requirement, is you had so many extras
Right.
to be on site, so.
Okay.
It's,
I threw out $5,000 for, I just guess at those numbers. I don't know what the science is behind all that. For a bond,
Actually, I think that's low.
you think? Okay.
30,000 square foot building with 26 parking spaces.
Yeah, like I said, I know what's out there, it's all sand, but it, so the water should be pretty, you should be able to control it pretty good. But digging into the side of the slope, you never know what you're gonna get. What's that?
Say again?
So the bond's mainly to cover the as-built, right? So I gotta think that it's probably close to a 2-acre site out there.
Well, the bond could have to cover more than that. We might, if, conceivably, if a contractor or an owner walks away from it, we might have to stabilize. We might have to grade. There could be any amount of things we have to do. And that's the purpose of the bond, is to be able to stabilize and complete the project, or just straighten it out. You're talking,
Yeah, I think, $5,000, you might even be just a touch light on just doing the
well,
asphalt.
you get,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
I think we're probably looking more like 15,
I would agree.
Total,
I would
including
agree with
construction.
15,000.
including construction.
You gotta, like I said, you gotta remember, if we have to go in and do grading or anything, if anything goes wrong. If they leave it in an open site condition,
do we allow reductions?
pardon me?
requests.
Yeah.
Right, no, that's,
But yes, the answer
yes,
is
but
yes.
in theory, yeah, if all the site work's
Stable.
done and stable, they can reduce. Yeah, no,
They
that,
can come and ask for parking.
yeah, no, that,
Yes.
I think that's fair, though.
We've been known to give partials.
And usually we don't go less than, no more than half,
No, that makes sense.
so,
We'll put you into the survey number.
I mean,
We'd put you into the as-built number, around
Yeah.
$7,000. It's a-
Yeah, there is. That's why I mentioned, 30,000 square feet, that's a good survey.
that's a pretty good construction site. And like I said, there's a lot of digging into a hill.
It's like just shy of 2.5 acres, so that's,
Yeah, so I was gonna say, it's
And
probably
most
twice
of it
as developed.
developed.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a pretty
So,
hefty
you know
number.
something, now, 15 might even be light.
I think it is. I think it's good. I think, 7,500 for an as-built, considering all the engineering plans are in place.
Yeah.
Theoretically, they're not gonna stray from them too far. Just a matter of updating the plan on an as-built. I think it's good. 15.
I'm updating 62. I meant to add, all dewatering BMPs shall be on site at pre-construction. Site visit. Oh, 72. I didn't know whether prior to COC or certificate of occupancy that snow storage markers should be installed. I feel like maybe the CO,
So the
Makes sense.
no snow stockpiling should be in prior to the next winter season, even if it's during construction. That's when your biggest impact is gonna be pushing mud up into, so they should be in before the first winter season.
okay.
Joe?
No questions, good.
Al?
No, no, I'm all set.
Motion.
We grant the order of conditions as drafted as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next order of business is signature authorization.
Authorize you to sign on your behalf.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. And the last but not least, motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,